The first shuttle from Earth drifted into the violet sky of Zerath Prime, its silver hull gleaming against the twin suns. Captain Ethan Calder leaned against the console, watching the vast alien city unfold beneath him. Towering spires shimmered with a strange, living light, as if the buildings themselves breathed. The air, though thin, carried a subtle hum, the planet's magnetic energy resonating through the shuttle like a distant song. "This is it," said Lieutenant Mara, adjusting the shuttle controls. "First contact, you ready?" He had spent his life learning human diplomacy, engineering, and strategy, yet nothing had prepared him for this, the moment when humanity would meet an alien civilization that considered itself far superior. The shuttle landed smoothly on a platform that floated above a lake of liquid crystal. As the doors opened, a group of beings approached. They were tall, nearly 3 meters, with skin that shimmered like molten silver and eyes that glowed faintly in shades of gold and green. They moved with a grace that made Ethan feel clumsy, their every gesture precise and measured. At the front of the group stood a figure who radiated authority. Her skin gleamed darker than the rest, her crown-like crest extending elegantly from her head. She regarded Ethan with eyes sharp and intelligent, yet unreadable. "Queen Zyra." "Captain Ethan Calder of the Terran Federation," Mara said, introducing him as the Queen watched. "We come in peace." It was calm, but there was a weight to it that made him instinctively straighten his back. As the formal greetings continued, Ethan noticed movement at the edge of the platform. A small figure stood quietly apart from the rest. It was a child, a girl no older than 8 cycles, with eyes that mirrored the colors of the twin suns. She watched Ethan as though she had known him all her life. Something about her gaze made his heart tighten, though he could not say why. When the introductions ended, the Queen motioned for her daughter to come forward. The girl stepped lightly, her movements echoing the elegance of her people, yet there was a strange curiosity in her expression. Then it happened. The girl looked at Ethan and said a single word, clear and confident: "Father." I'm sorry," Ethan stammered, glancing at Mara, who looked just as stunned. The girl repeated the word, "father," and reached for his hand. It was a small, innocent gesture, but it carried a weight that stunned Ethan. His mind raced. He had no children. He had never even seen this species in person before. How could she? Queen Zyra's voice cut sharply through the silence. "Explain yourself, human. Why does my daughter call you father?" Her tone was calm, but the underlying tremor in her words betrayed her shock. Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no explanation. I don't know," he said finally. "I have no connection to your daughter, I swear it. My daughter does not speak without reason. She does not call names lightly." Her gaze softened slightly as she looked at Lyra, the girl. "Why, Lyra, why do you call this human your father?" It was an impossible sensation, yet deeply familiar. Mara cleared her throat. "Captain, perhaps this is some form of psychic recognition. I knew you before I knew anyone else." "You must come with me," she said, her voice steady but firm. "You will explain this, now." Lyra walked beside him, her small hand occasionally brushing against his arm, each touch sending an odd sense of connection through him. Finally, they entered a chamber at the heart of the palace. It was vast, circular, and glowing with a soft, internal light. At the center sat a device that resembled a crystalline throne, but it pulsed with energy, like it was part living and part machine. The Queen gestured for Ethan to approach. "You will undergo the synchronization test," she said. "It will reveal your connection to Lyra. If there is truth to what she says, the device will show it." But the urgency in the Queen's eyes, the innocence in Lyra's, left him with no choice. He stepped forward and placed his hands on the crystalline surface. Light surged into him, cold at first, then warm. His vision blurred, and then he saw flashes, images that were not his own, memories that seemed foreign yet familiar. He saw a laboratory, bright and sterile, where a human researcher worked alongside Zerath scientists. They were combining human and Zerath DNA in ways that should have been impossible. He saw a small infant, Lyra, left behind on Zerath Prime, abandoned but alive. And then he saw himself, not as a participant, but as a perfect genetic match, a human template chosen long ago. Ethan staggered back. It's true," he whispered. "She's connected to me somehow, but I did. How could a human arrive here and match?" Her daughter, the heir of Zerath, had claimed a human as her father. It defied tradition, defied science, and challenged the very rules of their society. Finally, the Queen spoke, her voice softer. "If this is true, then we face a new reality. A human has entered our world in a way none of us expected, and my daughter, she has chosen him." I don't know what this means for your people, he said, but I promise I will protect her. I will do whatever I can to keep her safe. You will need to prove yourself worthy, not just to her, but to all of Zerath. Outside, the twin suns were setting, casting a violet and gold glow over the city. Ethan stood with Lyra beside him, feeling for the first time a connection that transcended species, time, and expectation. It was the beginning of something new, something dangerous, but something extraordinary. And in that moment, he realized that being called father was more than a title. It was a responsibility, a challenge, and perhaps the start of humanity's place among the stars. The queen watched them from her throne, her expression unreadable. But in the quiet corners of her mind, a thought lingered. Perhaps humans were not the fragile ones after all. The chamber was quiet after the synchronization test. Ethan stood beside Lyra, still feeling the strange warmth of their connection. The small girl's hand remained in his, her tiny fingers curling around his with surprising strength. Queen Zyra observed them from her throne, her golden eyes narrowed, yet her posture was calm. Ethan tried to make sense of what had happened. He had never seen anything like it. Humans had genetic diversity, yes, but nothing remotely close to matching an alien species, even one that shared experimental DNA centuries ago. And yet here it was. Lyra's very existence defied every expectation. "Sit," the queen said at last, gesturing to a nearby platform that floated slightly above the floor. "We will speak of this in full. You need to understand the significance of what you are. You are aware," the queen began, "that your presence here and your connection to Lyra breaks centuries of our tradition. No outsider has ever been so linked to a Zerath. No human has ever had this bond. You understand the gravity of this. I only wish to protect her." Her mind adapted to our species, but her core remained human-compatible. And now, you have arrived. Maybe it's about human DNA. Maybe my genome matches what she needs. He protects me. Her movements were precise, her cloak flowing like liquid metal. I will summon the council. You will explain, human. You must face them. That is enough. Ethan felt the weight of it, knowing that every eye was watching him. When they entered the council chamber, the room was massive, circular, with hundreds of seats rising like tiers of a stadium. At the center, Lyra's presence drew every gaze. The council members, elders of the Zerath, all-powerful psychics with centuries of experience, stared at Ethan with a mixture of suspicion, disbelief, and curiosity. Queen Zyra gestured for Ethan to speak. Explain, human. Explain your connection to Lyra and why she calls you father. I have never met her before today, but the synchronization test shows that there is a genetic connection. I am compatible with her DNA in ways that I cannot explain. I cannot claim to be her father in the traditional sense, but I can promise this: I will protect her. I will care for her. I will not let harm come to her. One of the council members, a tall Zerath with silver eyes and a long crest, stood. Your words may be sincere, human, but sincerity is not enough. Lyra is not a human child. She is heir to our species. Your bond could be dangerous. To help her, not to dominate her. If my presence helps her thrive, then that is all I wish for. If she recognizes a human as father, then perhaps the experiments were successful. But can we trust this human? Can we trust him not to manipulate her further? She had never heard Lyra speak with such clarity, such conviction, and yet she could feel the danger. The council might not accept this, and the ripple effect could be disastrous. Ethan stepped closer to Lyra, lowering his voice. It's okay, I'm here, I won't let anyone hurt you. I have always known. The gardens were unlike anything on Earth. Trees with crystalline leaves that glowed softly, rivers of liquid light winding through floating platforms, and flowers that sang faintly when touched by the wind. Lyra ran ahead, her laughter echoing like chimes. Ethan followed, his heart light despite the tension. She was so small, yet so brave. She had survived alone for her entire life, and now somehow she had chosen him. As they reached a platform overlooking a shimmering lake, Ethan knelt beside her. Lyra, I need to understand. How do you know me? How did you choose me? You are the one I recognize. But maybe we are strong in ways they cannot measure. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, but he was about to show them just how resilient, clever, and courageous humanity could be. For now, though, he allowed himself a moment of peace. He had found a purpose greater than any mission or duty he had known. A child, an alien child, had chosen him as her protector, and he would rise to that challenge no matter the cost. Queen Zyra observed from a distance, her expression thoughtful. She could feel the bond between Ethan and Lyra, stronger than any psychic link she had witnessed. It was a new kind of power, one that combined human unpredictability with Zerath potential. Perhaps, she thought quietly, humans were not the fragile ones after all. The night fell over Zerath Prime, and the twin moons rose, casting their pale light over the crystalline city. Ethan stood with Lyra beside him, feeling the strange, profound certainty of their connection. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unknown, but together, human and hybrid child, they would face it. And somewhere deep in the palace, the council whispered among themselves, unsure whether this new alliance would bring peace, chaos, or something entirely unexpected. Ethan did not know what the future held, but one thing was certain. He would protect Lyra, and he would prove that humans, even on a distant alien world, could stand proud, courageous, and unbroken. The next morning, Zerath Prime glowed under the twin suns, casting long shadows across the crystalline towers. Captain Ethan Calder walked beside Lyra through the palace gardens, the soft hum of the floating platforms beneath their feet filling the air. Despite the council's scrutiny, the girl's presence brought a lightness to his steps he had not felt in years. "You have to be careful," Ethan said gently. "Not everyone here will trust me. Some may try to challenge you because of me." And Lyra had more courage in her small frame than many grown beings he had known. Their peaceful morning, however, was interrupted by a sudden commotion. Alarms echoed across the palace, lights flashing in rhythm with the hum of the city. Ethan and Lyra froze as palace guards hurried past them, their movements tense and urgent. "Status report," Queen Zyra's commanding voice rang through the gardens. Her eyes were sharp, scanning the sky. One of her senior guards approached, his crest bristling with concern. "A faction from the outer territories has crossed the northern border. They are armed with experimental weapons. Their intention appears to be to capture the air." "Lyra, I trust you completely, Father." They raced to the palace command center, a sleek chamber lined with controls that pulsed with psychic energy. Ethan watched as Queen Zyra and her advisors assessed the threat. Holographic maps of the city displayed the advancing faction, their paths highlighted in red. "They are moving fast," a senior council member said. "If they reach Lyra, her life is in grave danger. They will exploit predictable behavior. We must use unpredictability, move her through hidden routes they cannot anticipate. I trust you to lead me." She had inherited a unique hybrid trait, an ability to sense others' intentions in subtle ways. She guided Ethan through side paths, warning him when danger was near. A faint pulse in the floor, a subtle vibration in the walls, she could read them all. Ethan marveled at her instincts. Humans were clever, but Lyra combined human adaptability with Zerath perception. Together, they were a force that even seasoned Zerath soldiers could not anticipate. Outside the palace, the attackers closed in. Ethan and Lyra emerged through a side platform, descending onto a crystal bridge that spanned a glowing river. The enemy expected them to flee in the main corridors. Instead, Ethan's human improvisation led them along a path few could follow. The attackers, upon realizing the deviation, hesitated. Confusion spread through their ranks. Humans were unpredictable, and Lyra's abilities amplified that effect. One of the attackers tried to intercept them, its energy blade swinging with lethal precision. Ethan grabbed a nearby shard of crystal and deflected the attack, using the momentum to push the aggressor off balance. Lyra ducked and moved forward, sensing danger before it arrived. Together, they fought not with brute force alone, but with quick thinking and synchronized movement. As they reached the final lift, Ethan paused. "We need a place to hide, somewhere they cannot reach." "I know the path." Ethan realized the importance of this moment. The humans' greatest strength was their ability to adapt, to improvise when all else seemed lost. Zerath might have psychic powers and advanced technology, but they could not predict human intuition. Hours passed, and the attackers eventually retreated. Ethan and Lyra emerged from the hidden chamber to find Queen Zyra and the palace guards waiting. The Queen's eyes held a mixture of relief and newfound respect. "You have saved her," she said quietly. "Your strategy, your courage, humans may be underestimated, but you have shown value beyond expectation. Lyra is more than a child, she's a bridge between our species. I won't let anyone harm her." Yet here was a human with no psychic gifts, protecting the air with nothing but courage, intelligence, and adaptability. As the sun set, Ethan stood beside Lyra on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons rose slowly, casting a silver glow across the crystalline towers. Ethan realized that humans were underestimated not because they lacked power, but because their greatest strengths could not be measured by technology or psychic ability. Lyra leaned against him, her small head resting on his shoulder. "Do you think they will accept me calling you father?" she asked softly. Ethan looked at her, feeling the bond that went beyond reason or biology. "It doesn't matter if they accept it," he said gently. "What matters is that we trust each other and that we protect each other. That is stronger than anything else in this galaxy. You and Lyra are linked now, and that link may invite challenges beyond this palace. You must be ready." Humans were often underestimated, yet here in a distant alien world, he had proven that courage and cleverness could rival psychic power and technology. The night grew deeper, but Ethan could not rest. He and Lyra stayed on the balcony, watching the city lights shimmer in the darkness. He thought of the council, the attackers, and the dangers yet to come. Yet amidst all that uncertainty, he felt one certainty: humans were capable of extraordinary things, and together with Lyra they could face anything. Lyra's voice broke his thoughts. "Father, will we be safe?" And for the first time since arriving on Zerath Prime, Ethan felt a hope that went beyond survival. He felt the beginnings of something greater, an alliance not just of species, but of heart and courage, a bond that could challenge the expectations of an entire galaxy. As the twin moons bathed the city in silver light, Ethan realized that this was only the beginning. The future would bring tests, threats, and mysteries he could not yet imagine. But humans had always faced the impossible, and humans had always endured. He looked at Lyra, her small hand in his, and felt a surge of determination. The galaxy would learn that humans were not fragile, not weak, not unworthy. They were clever, adaptable, and brave beyond measure. And together, human and hybrid child, they would prove it to everyone. Queen Zyra watched from the shadows, silent but thoughtful. Perhaps, she considered, humans were indeed a species underestimated at their own risk. And perhaps, through her daughter, they would teach Zerath a lesson in courage, innovation, and heart that no psychic power alone could match. The night was quiet, but the pulse of the city beneath them told a story of vigilance, hope, and the unyielding spirit of a human determined to protect what he had come to love. Ethan knew challenges lay ahead, but with Lyra beside him, he was ready. And somewhere in the distant stars, humanity's name, though unknown to the Zerath world, began to shine brighter than ever before. The twin suns of Zerath Prime had barely risen when a silent alarm vibrated through the palace. Captain Ethan Calder was already awake, training his mind and body for anything. His bond with Lyra had grown stronger over the past cycles, and though they had faced one attack, he knew the galaxy was far from safe. Queen Zyra's chambers were filled with tension as she briefed Ethan and the palace guards. "The outer territories are not done. They have allied with rogue mercenaries, using experimental weapons beyond our usual calculations," she said. Her golden eyes darted between Ethan and Lyra. "They want Lyra, not just for her hybrid abilities, but as leverage against the council." The girl was small, yet her perception was extraordinary. Her hybrid abilities were growing faster than the Queen had anticipated. Not only could she sense intentions, but she could subtly influence movements, though not control minds, only suggest possibilities. Together, they were unpredictable, and that unpredictability gave them an edge humans alone could not wield. The Queen led them to a secure observation platform overlooking the northern approaches to the city. Holographic maps displayed troop movements. Red markers indicated enemy forces, advancing with deadly precision. "They will strike in 3 cycles," the Queen warned, "and they will aim for the bridges first, cutting off escape. We'll make them think the bridges are heavily guarded," he said. "Then we'll move Lyra through the hidden conduits beneath the palace. It's narrow, but she can move faster than their sensors can detect. They will adapt." Red lights glowed as if the city were bracing for an onslaught. But Ethan and Lyra were already in motion, moving silently through hidden corridors that twisted beneath the palace. Lyra led, her instincts guiding them past traps and sensors, while Ethan ensured they maintained speed and balance. Suddenly, a section of the tunnel collapsed ahead. Ethan braced himself, scanning quickly. "Step back," he whispered. Using human ingenuity, he shifted a crystal shard to wedge the debris just enough to create a passage. Lyra followed without hesitation, her faith in him absolute. They emerged into an underground chamber, its walls pulsating with soft light. The chamber had been built centuries ago as a refuge for the royal family in case of siege. It was isolated, secure, and hidden beneath the largest lake of liquid crystal. Ethan allowed himself a brief sigh of relief, though he knew the enemy would not give up easily. Above them, chaos erupted. The enemy had realized the deception. Energy blasts raked across the palace walls, and alarms screamed through the city. Ethan could feel the tremors in the crystal beneath their feet. Lyra clutched his hand. "They are strong, father, but we are smarter." But strategy, deception, and timing were powerful tools. He whispered to Lyra, "Use your ability to sense their intent. We need to move before they realize where we are. Another group will follow, assuming we are trapped." It was a simple trick, yet humans had always excelled at turning simplicity into survival. As predicted, the enemy scouts entered the chamber above, unaware of the hidden passage below. Lyra guided Ethan silently through the exit, and they slipped onto a concealed path beneath the palace's outer walls. They moved quickly, using shadows and reflective surfaces to mask their presence. Above, chaos continued. The palace guards engaged the enemy, drawing their attention and buying Ethan and Lyra time. The girls' hybrid abilities allowed them to sense danger moments before it arrived, evading traps and ambushes with uncanny precision. Hours passed, yet they remained undetected. Finally, they reached a secure courtyard near the lake, where Queen Zyra awaited with her elite guards. She regarded Ethan with a mixture of relief and admiration. "You have proven that humans are more capable than many of us believed," she said. "Your actions have saved Lyra's life. I will not let anyone harm her." Yet here was a human with no psychic gifts, protecting the air with nothing but courage, intelligence, and adaptability. As the sun set, Ethan stood beside Lyra on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons rose slowly, casting a silver glow across the crystalline towers. Ethan realized that humans were underestimated not because they lacked power, but because their greatest strengths could not be measured by technology or psychic ability. Lyra leaned against him, her small head resting on his shoulder. "Do you think they will accept me calling you father?" she asked softly. Ethan looked at her, feeling the bond that went beyond reason or biology. "It doesn't matter if they accept it," he said gently. "What matters is that we trust each other and that we protect each other. That is stronger than anything else in this galaxy. You and Lyra are linked now, and that link may invite challenges beyond this palace. You must be ready." Humans were often underestimated, yet here in a distant alien world, he had proven that courage and cleverness could rival psychic power and technology. The night grew deeper, but Ethan could not rest. He and Lyra stayed on the balcony, watching the city lights shimmer in the darkness. He thought of the council, the attackers, and the dangers yet to come. Yet amidst all that uncertainty, he felt one certainty: humans were capable of extraordinary things, and together with Lyra they could face anything. Lyra's voice broke his thoughts. "Father, will we be safe?" And for the first time since arriving on Zerath Prime, Ethan felt a hope that went beyond survival. He felt the beginnings of something greater, an alliance not just of species, but of heart and courage, a bond that could challenge the expectations of an entire galaxy. Queen Zyra watched from the shadows, silent but thoughtful. Perhaps, she considered, humans were indeed a species underestimated at their own risk. And perhaps, through her daughter, they would teach Zerath a lesson in courage, innovation, and heart that no psychic power alone could match. The night was quiet, but the pulse of the city beneath them told a story of vigilance, hope, and the unyielding spirit of a human determined to protect what he had come to love. Ethan knew challenges lay ahead, but with Lyra beside him, he was ready. And somewhere in the distant stars, humanity's name, though unknown to the Zerath world, began to shine brighter than ever before. The morning air on Zerath Prime was sharp and electric. Captain Ethan Calder stood with Lyra at the edge of the palace balcony, overlooking the city. The twin suns had barely risen, casting long, golden streaks across the crystalline towers. Even after the previous attacks, Ethan knew the danger was far from over. Queen Zyra approached quietly, her expression measured. "The outer territories have regrouped," she said. "They are not content with past failures. They have allied with mercenaries, but also with a rogue faction within the council itself. Some see your bond with Lyra as a threat to tradition and their power. They will act to remove her, or you if left unchecked." Humans had always survived impossible odds, not because of strength alone, but because of intelligence, creativity, and courage. And Lyra, a hybrid child with abilities beyond even Zerath understanding, gave them a power no one could ignore. The first step was to secure the palace. Ethan quickly organized a strategy that combined human improvisation with Zerath precision. Guards would form diversions, creating false signals and holographic decoys. Meanwhile, he and Lyra would move through hidden corridors, identifying and neutralizing any internal threats. As they moved through the palace, Ethan explained his plan to Lyra. "We'll separate their attention. Some will pursue false targets. Others will underestimate us in the corridors. You and I will use that to our advantage. Remember, timing and observation are everything." Lyra's senses sharpened, alerting him to movements he could not see. They were nearly trapped in a side chamber when Lyra whispered, "Three coming from the north. We need to move now." Ethan reacted instinctively, using a crystal shard to deflect the energy blast and push the intruder off balance. Lyra ducked low, moving past him with precision. Humans were underestimated for their adaptability, and Ethan was proving that once again. The corridors twisted, labyrinthine, but Ethan's memory of the palace layout and Lyra's instincts guided them. They emerged in a central chamber where Queen Zyra awaited with her loyal advisors and guards. The rogue faction, realizing they had underestimated the human, hesitated at the entrance. Queen Zyra's gaze swept over the room. "Ethan Calder," she said, voice steady and commanding, "your actions have proven your value, but the time for subtlety is over. We must confront those who would threaten our air and our city directly." Ethan studied their positions, noting the predictable patterns in their formation. "They rely on repetition," he whispered to Lyra. "They expect the same responses every time. That's their weakness. They will hesitate, giving us the advantage." The rogue Zerath Council members, emboldened by their mercenary allies, attempted to intercept the duo in the central chamber. Ethan acted swiftly, using a combination of human logic and improvisation. He created obstacles with crystalline panels, redirecting energy beams, forcing the attackers to break formation. Lyra's abilities amplified the effect, allowing them to sense the best moments to move, striking only when necessary to disable without permanent harm. Queen Zyra joined them at the top of the observation deck. She raised her hands, manipulating psychic energy to create barriers that slowed enemy forces. "Your human ingenuity is remarkable, Ethan Calder," she said. "I see why my daughter trusts you." Energy beams reflected off crystalline walls, creating dazzling displays of light. Despite the chaos, Ethan maintained focus, guiding Lyra and coordinating the palace defense. Every step, every action was calculated. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked courage or intelligence, but because they operated unpredictably. The enemy commander, realizing their strategies were failing, attempted a desperate maneuver. He aimed directly for Lyra, intending to capture her and end the conflict. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Not today," he muttered. With a swift motion, he used a shard of crystal to deflect an incoming blast, creating an opening. Lyra, sensing the attack, leapt with precision, avoiding capture while guiding Ethan toward the enemy commander. Together, they cornered him in a corridor, cutting off all escape routes. The commander raised his weapon, but Lyra's small hand glowed faintly. She did not strike him, only projected a sense of hesitation, subtly influencing his decisions. He faltered, confused by the sudden doubt. Ethan seized the opportunity, disarming him with quick, calculated movement. The threat was neutralized. Queen Zyra's voice echoed through the corridors. "It is over. The rogue faction has been contained. The outer territories retreat." Humans were often underestimated, but today their adaptability, intelligence, and courage had turned the tide. The hybrid child and the human father had changed the course of the battle. In the aftermath, the palace council gathered. There was murmuring, but it carried a new tone: respect. Ethan's actions had proven that humans were not to be dismissed, that courage and cleverness could rival psychic power and centuries of tradition. Queen Zyra stepped forward, placing a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Your bond with Ethan Calder has saved you, and it has saved our city. Perhaps humans are stronger than we believed." "They understand." The human had acted with courage, strategy, and heart, and the hybrid child's abilities had amplified their success. Together, they had achieved what Zerath thought impossible. That evening, the city celebrated. Crystalline towers glowed brighter than usual, reflecting the twin moons in sparkling patterns. Citizens and guards alike praised the courage of Ethan Calder and Lyra, their names whispered in admiration. Humans had left a mark on Zerath Prime that could not be erased. Ethan stood with Lyra at the highest balcony, looking over the city. "We've won today," he said, but tomorrow will bring new challenges. We must be ready. My daughter chose well, but we will face them together. And humans are never truly defeated. We survive, we adapt, and we triumph. And through Lyra, the bridge between their species, they would continue to prove their worth, not with weapons alone, but with courage, intelligence, and heart. Lyra's voice broke the quiet. Do you think the others will ever accept me calling you father? And nothing, no power, no tradition, can change that. Ethan Calder and Lyra had shown the galaxy that humans, though underestimated, were capable of extraordinary courage and intelligence. The HFY spirit, resilient, clever, and unbreakable, had shone brightly on this distant alien world. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, humanity's place among the stars had grown, not through conquest or power, but through heart, ingenuity, and the unshakable bond of a father and his child.